Now, they told you that Russiagate was settled. They mocked anyone who questioned it. But now, even Stephen A. Smith is warning this isn't going away. Why? Because these allegations against Obama aren't just political. They're criminal, if true. And the people calling it a distraction, they're the ones trying the hardest to keep you from looking. Let's go ahead and pull that curtain back, y'all.
So the Trump administration accused Barack Obama of treason, which is terrible if it's true and he needs to be prosecuted for it. But one of the main arguments I'm seeing from liberals is, well, Trump has 34 felonies. Why is he worried about Barack Obama? Y'all, none of those 34 felonies had anything to do with politics, had nothing to do with Trump betraying American people. It had to do with stuff in his personal life with his businesses. That's all it, even now, like all of the charges got dropped except for one, which I think is like falsifying business records in New York. That has nothing to do with politics. That has nothing to do with anything going on while he was president, bruh. That has to do with him and his personal life and his businesses. So why are y'all bringing that up? Like, why does that matter more than what they're accusing Barack Obama of? Like, y'all, do y'all understand that if this is true and they can actually prove what they're saying, that like that's one of the worst things you could do as a president is commit treason, bruh. And y'all are just sitting here like, oh, well, we're not really too worried about that because it's Barack Obama. But, you know, Trump, 34 felonies, even though they've all been dropped except for one. And none of them have anything to do with politics. And before y'all get on here accusing, oh, well, Trump got accused of this. Y'all, none of that has been proven in court. None of that has been proven in court, which is exactly why I said they accused Barack Obama. They have to prove it. I'm not saying Barack Obama did it, but you know, the evidence is looking like it, but it still has to go through court, still has to go through the right process. But if it does come out that he did and they have the evidence to prove it, prosecute him to the fullest, bro, to the fullest extent.
So let me break this down for the people in the back. Trump gets indicted over hush money paperwork, right? And they act like it's Watergate 2.0. But Obama allegedly weaponized the intelligence community, and suddenly it's, you know, let's just move on. Nothing to see here, right? No. If justice is real, it ain't selective. If you scream no one is above the law in 2020 and beyond, if, you know what I'm saying, you better mean it in 2025 too. Or admit you never cared about justice, only power. You could just go ahead and confess. It's okay. Because what you're about to hear next destroys the idea that this was a conspiracy theory altogether. She lays out the whole blueprint.
Hi, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible because I keep hearing these people, especially Democrats, saying, well, this deal that Tulsi Gabbard is saying that President Obama manufactured evidence in order to try to prove that President Trump had a relationship with Russia to try to change the 2016 election. Anyway, I'm going to make this as quick and easy as possible. This is what happened. You know that President Trump was running against Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton paid for someone what they called a Steele dossier. It was Christopher Steele. She paid for him to write this dossier about President Trump. In that dossier, they lied and said that President Trump was working with Russia so that he could circumvent the electorate and go and really rig the 2016 election. Okay, Hillary paid for that. They told at that time you had Brennan, who was the director of the CIA, and you had Comey, who was the director of the FBI. Both of them told President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden that those documents were fake. They told them that Hillary Clinton paid for it and it was all fabricated. Now, normally when that situation happens, what does the president do? He goes and admonishes Hillary Clinton for creating all of these fake narratives in order to beat a political opponent. But that's not what they did. President Barack Obama, even after he received documentation from the FBI and CIA, he got someone to write out a memo and say, okay, you guys, now let's basically fabricate something stating that President Trump did have a relationship with Russia. That was the crime. The crime was that a sitting president of the United States, because at that time he was still president, a sitting president of the United States created, manufactured what was a conspiracy. He manufactured it. It did not exist. Both the CIA and the FBI and other intelligence entities told him this is not true. Hillary just made this up. But instead of him doing what a president is supposed to do, President Barack Obama continued with it, and they have the emails. And people like, well, they don't have documentation. Yes, they do. This is what Tulsi Gabbard released. She released the memo where President Obama says we need to basically create this information that does not exist. That is the whole gist of the story. And then even after they manufactured the information, they paid Robert Mueller to do a special investigation of President Trump and his relationship with Russia. And everyone involved knew that it was fake. Everyone knew that it was manufactured. The Mueller investigation cost us over $32 million. Then when his was over, they got Durham to do an investigation himself, and it was over $10 million. So for 7 years, this just ended in 2023. They paid people to create and to go along with this fake information. And that is the crime. So for all of the people out here saying, well, they didn't really do anything. Let me tell you how bad it was. A sitting U.S. president created documents that he knew were fake. They were manufactured by him and his intelligence community to take down the censor. Can you believe that? That is the main thing. So I just made it quick, simple, and easy. Just keep waiting and wait for the documentation, and someone must do something about this.
Exactly.
This cannot be swept under the rug. Yes, this is huge.
Yes, it is. Because this wasn't a rumor. This was coordination. Clinton funds the dossier. CIA tells Obama it's phony. And Obama's response is to just fabricate it anyway. Just, hey, run with it. Do what you got to do. Y'all want to talk about democracy? Dying in the darkness? That wasn't Trump. That was Barack Hussein Obama, or Barry Soetoro. And the damage wasn't just Trump. It poisoned the entire country. And now some of the people who, let's say, help carry it out, they are starting to sweat a bit. I mean, more than a bit. You just take a look for yourself.
When the director says that she's referred these filings to the Justice Department for a criminal investigation, tonight we're told they formed what is called a strike force. Do you have concerns that they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do.
Hold on, we're going to rewind that. What you say?
That they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do. After 8.5 years of this, and I don't know of an intelligence product that was more scrutinized, more investigated than that product was by numerous people. It's very disconcerting. It really is. And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
You've already hired attorneys in anticipation that this Trump Justice Department could try to prosecute you.
We've had sort of perpetual attorneys since I left the government in 2017.
So, James Clapper is lawyered up. He knows they're closing in. He knows. I mean, you don't lawyer up unless there's something worth hiding. I mean, in this scenario, I take back what I said. You do lawyer up, even in scenarios you're not hiding nothing. But in this particular case, yeah, man, this man ran U.S. intelligence under Obama, and now he's prepping for prosecution. So here's the question. If he's innocent, why is Clapper acting guilty? Strategizing, And here's where it gets disgusting. Because you got the people out here defending Obama, and they're the same ones who scream MAGA is a threat to democracy, while making excuses for actual interference. I had to try to figure out a way to say that. Y'all, take a look at this, please. Play. Okay, come on now. You're messing up my cue. Play.
Hey, so real quick, you don't receive presidential immunity if you committed treason. Okay? Have a nice day.
This administration runs off misinformation and half-truths, and that is how they keep MAGA in line. MAGA is now calling for the arrest of former President Barack Obama, including all of his administrative heads, due to misinformation that was put out by Tulsi Gabbard. What's most concerning is that these people calling for Barack Obama's arrest don't see that this is a blatant distraction from the fact that the Epstein files are not being brought out. The only person that committed treason while in office as the president was President Trump on January 6th. He's also a 34 times convicted felon, an accused rapist, and is within the documents of one of the most prolific sexual offenders in American history. But you want the arrest of a Barack Obama for hearsay from Tulsi Gabbard, even though the documents prove that Russia actually did interfere with the election. On Twitter, they're saying Tulsi Gabbard just appeared on Fox and confirmed the American people that Barack Obama and senior officials around him attempted a coup. This is treason. It's time to see him and these people put on trial and held in Alcatraz. Who tried a coup? Barack Obama or Trump on January 6th? It's unfathomable that people could be this dense and this dumb, but what's worse is how they talk out of both sides of their mouth. Like Trump does something, it's like, oh, he didn't do it, but Barack Obama doesn't actually do something, oh, put him in Alcatraz. It's exhausting being in America, y'all. It's exhausting.
This is exactly what distraction looks like. You know, they call our reaction a problem, not their cover up. They pretend like Tulsi Gabbard's documents are hearsay, like they are just made up, like she's not who she is. You know what I'm saying? But Clapper and Brennan are scrambling. And notice, they'll bring up Trump's personal cases. They'll do that while ignoring Obama's government level corruption. This ain't justice. This is hypocrisy on steroids, y'all. That's what I'm trying to show you. When somebody actually tries to tell the truth, watch who tries to. Shut them down. Y'all.
Tulsi Gabbard, she may be impaired on the ethics front, certainly, but she's not impaired on the intellect front. And so I can only presume that she is doing this intentionally mischaracterizing, misrepresenting, and lying about what she has found. Tulsi Gabbard,
wow. Like she didn't just release nothing. These are the same people who pushed the Russia hoax and told you it was facts. Now they're attacking a whistleblower. Typical DC playbook right here, man. Lie, then destroy the person telling the truth. But they didn't count on us remembering or asking the right questions. Because if you still think this is just some political stunt, you've got to see how deep this ran and who helped make this all possible in the first place.
Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election.
No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes. Russia hacked the election.
Fact, Russia hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
The president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
President Trump says he still wonders if the Russians hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
If he admits it, it casts a shadow on his victory over Hillary Clinton.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Let's be clear, Russia hacked the election.
Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
Election-related cyber hacking.
Cyber hacking of U.S. elections. Cyber hacking of the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
The CIA, the FBI, NSA.
All of these intelligence organizations.
17 intelligence agencies.
All conclude that Russia hacked the election.
If we find out that Donald Trump just theoretically was colluding with Russia while they were hacking the election, that is completely impeachable.
This dossier alleged a conspiracy between the Trump campaign
and the Russian effort to hack the election.
The director of national intelligence, the head of the National Security Agency, the head of the FBI, all of these intelligence experts saying Russia hacked the election.
The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, I mean, they've all said this. So to believe that that's wrong, you have to believe they're all involved in an elaborate conspiracy to get Donald Trump, which seems a little far-fetched to me.
Now, that wasn't journalism. That was propaganda. The media was complacent and pushing fake intelligence. Y'all seen it. Fake collusions, fake crisis. They helped derail a presidency. And now the truth is out. They want amnesia. Well, guess what, man? Same thing. We don't forget. So what does that leave us? You don't have to take my word for it anymore. Because even people on that side are starting to admit what's actually coming.
If you're talking about Trump winning the election in 2016, and you then turn around and show proof that there was a concerted effort by the Obama administration to derail his presidency, that creates problems. Not from the typical scandal stuff. Listen, I remember when the Republicans were trying to disrupt Clinton's presidency by, living on the Monica Lewinsky situation. Okay? And essentially, you had libertarians going all crazy and all of this other stuff. He lied, and he did this in the Oval Office. That's what they were saying. Okay? But it did lead to Clinton losing his law license, ability to practice law for several years. Okay? And obviously it was a scandal that really, really stained his presidency to some degree, even though he won back-to-back elections. So we understand that. But you can't ignore scandals like this, because if it involves the CIA, if it involves the FBI, if it involves the weaponization of law enforcement in this country, then we got a problem. We got a problem. Now, do I believe that it's an evasive measure? Absolutely. Do I believe it's distractionary on the part of the Trump administration to get everybody's mind off the Epstein files? You're damn right I do. Of course I do. Of course I do. Okay? But the reality is that doesn't mean it's false. And if it's not false, and indeed there is a level of veracity attached to the allegations and the assertions articulated by Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump himself, and others, then, we've got a problem. Now, just to recap for those of you who didn't really know or understand, remember, Trump wins the election in 2016, all right? Because Democrats and the media, at least in the eyes of the right, attempted to paint Trump as being in cahoots with Russia to steal the election. The story haunted him all through his first term, and many people on the left still believe it's true, despite probes that found no evidence, okay? So we got to point that out. When Tulsi Gabbard comes on the air the other day, she says she's releasing the stuff that she released now suggests strongly that Obama-era intelligence agencies were weaponized against Trump to build a narrative of Russian collusion, with key figures like John Brennan ignoring top CIA employees who told him it wasn't really, really true. So understand the magnitude of that. The head of the CIA is told by his subordinates, there's no truth to this. But they keep the story of Russian collusion and Trump going on to sort of give the indication, not sort of, but to give the indication that Trump was in cahoots with Vladimir Putin and Russia. And obviously, his entire presidency over the first term was preoccupied with that stuff, okay? Yep. Remember, the Russian collusion story was built off of the Steele dossier, all right? Remember that? Former British intel officer Christopher Steele? The Steele dossier, what did they say about it? Which was unverified opposition research paid for by the DNC and the Clinton campaign, if you're listening to the right. These are the kind of things that are going on. So when you look at the magnitude of that and you hear the kind of things that they're saying, of course, Obama doesn't have to worry about going to jail or anything like that. Trump ensured that when the Supreme Court ruled basically that he can operate with relative impunity. That as commander-in-chief, actions that you exercise as commander-in-chief allows you to be immune from prosecution, essentially. I'm paraphrasing here, not getting too specific, but that's the bottom line. So if that applies to him, it certainly applies to Obama. But if you are Trump, and there is truth to this, and you have the ability with facts to point out what transpired on behalf of the Democratic Party in pursuit of derailing Trump's presidency during his first term. Now, that's a problem. You hear words like treason and all this stuff. I'm not buying that, but the point is that the opposition is always looking to derail an administration. If you're a Republican in the White House, Democrats are going to try to derail you. If you're a liberal in the White House, the conservatives are going to try to derail you. And Mitch McConnell was on the record saying his mission was to make sure that Barack Obama was a one-term president. We've heard this stuff before. And so when Trump gets into the office, it's not beyond the pale of comprehension that you're going to have people on the left saying they're trying to derail him too. That always, always, always happens. But the weaponization of intelligence agencies to pull that off brings on an entirely different problem. And if the Democrats are found to have been guilty of this, really creating the story, that's not good.
At all.
Because you have a whole bunch of people skeptical about politics to begin with. And you got to remember, Trump is in office because he's considered the anti-politician. His behavior, his mannerisms, his language, his verbiage, his actions to some degree are very apolitical. It's not typically what you see from conventional politicians on Capitol Hill. And then when you think about how they went after him and they engaged in lawfare to take him down, the 34 felony counts of convictions and all of this other stuff, they're going to say, see, he wasn't guilty of any of this stuff. They did everything they could to derail him from being the president because the mission was to keep him from getting back into the White House. It wasn't that he did this or did that. They're going to say it's all a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring up the Hunter Biden scandal with the whole laptop controversy. And they're going to say from 2016 to 2020 to 2024, each and every single time they were lying. And they were engaging in unsavory style behavior that adds credence to the argument that we've been making against them. There's no truth to any of this stuff. They just wanted to derail the presidency of number 45. And they wanted to big up Biden. And they're going to point out how when he was on stage, as one pundit said, looking like an elderly individual in a nursing home waiting for his applesauce. But they were talking about him like he was lucid and cogent and alert and all of this other stuff. They're going to point that out. See Jim Jordan on the air the other night? You see these reporters? I mean, they're not playing. This is not going away.
Man, you heard the man. This isn't just about Trump. It's about truth, trust, and the abuse of power. The Obama administration used government intel to try to cancel what happened in 2020. And now they're terrified that everybody's waking up. You know, they say this video is a distraction, but no, your silence is the distraction. This right here, this is called holding the line, okay? And if you're still watching right now, you're one of us. I want to say I appreciate that. Follow me on X and Rumble. Well, I say what the news media is too scared to say. Okay, it looked like I got to charge my little portable light. Thank God it went out at the right time. But drop a comment. Let me know if you think Obama should be held accountable or if they're too scared to continue to investigate. Y'all think anything can happen? Be safe. Go check on somebody today. Peace.